after a wild opening weekend. And it's not too bad other than Kentucky, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, you lose your national title runner-up on the very first game of their NCAA tournament campaign. You lose Wisconsin, that's going to hurt. You lose Tennessee, that's going to hurt. You mentioned that I do still have, the North Carolina, UCLA, and Purdue, 3 out of the 4. You still got 3 out of the 4, but I picked Gonzaga getting knocked off by UConn. UConn goes down early. And that's the problem with my bracket right now. In most bracket pools that I'm in on CBS Sports, I'm sitting about middle of the pack because I still have Kansas alive. I do have a decent number of Sweet 16 represented, but I also have got a lot of red marks through it. I'll tell you, Chris, there was nothing that I love more than being given the opportunity, both on CBSSports.com and here on CBS Sports HQ, to re-rack that thing and get another stab with our 16.
Well, let's do it right now and see how you have this unfolding with a repick beginning here in the Sweet 16 and in the West region where the Gonzaga Bulldogs are. And you have Gonzaga and Texas Tech matching up in the regional final.
Yeah, Texas Tech over Duke is going to be the one that is it almost like hurts me a little bit, because what I'm picking is for our entire, Coach K is done content machine to get firing. And I know it's going to be exhausting, but, I do think that Texas Tech's defense is going to cause a lot of problems for Duke's guards. And while they played great against Michigan State, I just don't see that happening against the best defense in the entire country. I do think Gonzaga's going to get a test from Arkansas, as I am on Arkansas and the points from a betting angle, but Gonzaga will likely end up winning that game. And Gonzaga and Texas Tech, we've already seen it. Gonzaga won the first meeting, and I think Gonzaga wins the next.
Okay, let's go to the next region here as Chip Patterson redoes his bracket. In the South, this is where you have Houston upsetting Arizona, but Villanova coming out of that region.
Yeah, Villanova with a team that has not been overly impressive in my eyes compared to national championship winning Villanova teams. I just looked at the way this bracket was breaking. I looked at the matchup against Michigan, another team that is more than happy to slow this thing down and play in Villanova's pace without having the offensive firepower to really out-execute the Wildcats. And I was like, goodness gracious, are the Wildcats just about to backdoor their way into another Final Four appearance? And that Houston win is going to be very, very difficult for Villanova to get. But I am going with Jay Wright because of something that I saw in that Ohio State game when a tie game flipped into a 10-point win on the flip of a dime. I mean, the way that Villanova can both get stops at the defensive end and get a good quality shot in the last 5 minutes of a ball game, it is reflective of a head coach who is at the top of the game of college basketball. And I think that kind of execution gives them an edge against Michigan. And I think that kind of execution ends up being the difference for the Wildcats in what would be an amazing Elite Eight game against Houston.
And just a great free throw shooting team. So when it's close down the stretch, it's going to be tough for the other team. When Villanova shoots it about 77%, I believe, as a team. In the East region, you have UCLA coming out of there now. This is where you had Kentucky. So now going with Purdue to get by St. Peter's, and UCLA then to beat Purdue.
Yeah, and this is not a unpopular Final Four pick. Gary Parrish on the Eye on College Basketball podcast had UCLA in the Final Four from the jump. I had UCLA making it to the Elite Eight in my initial reading of this bracket. And so that's where I've got to look at this Bruins team and the experience that they have. And the fact that when UCLA had really their NCAA tournament on the ropes against Akron, they turned to their veteran point guard, Tiger Campbell, and they said, we need you to get us out of here. Jaime Jaquez can't hit a shot. Johnny Juzang can't hit a shot. And Tiger Campbell was able to keep things calm, be able to execute and run the offense in a way that helped the Bruins advance to the next round, where they went on and absolutely took care of a good St. Mary's team. And so that's where I think it's the experience, not that just that you've got juniors and seniors, but you've got juniors and seniors with a lot of NCAA tournament wins under their belt. And I think that that's going to end up being the difference against a Purdue team that it is all setting up for Purdue to be very excited about the way that this thing has turned out. But I think that Elite Eight matchup, deep NCAA tournament experience, it favors the Bruins.
All right, so UCLA into the Final Four as well as Chip redoes his bracket here. One more region to pick here, and it's the Midwest. That's where Kansas is the overwhelming favorite to come out of there. That first matchup might be their toughest against Providence.
Yeah, Nate Watson, the Providence big man. I mentioned Kansas big man David McCormick earlier. He's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde with his performances. And Nate Watson's going to really try to bring the fight to McCormick. Mitch Lightfoot, whoever's playing down low, you've got to keep Watson off the block. You've got to keep him away from the rim because he's an absolute problem. Providence is going to try to make this a rock fight and check Kansas's physicality, but ultimately Providence doesn't have enough buckets to be able to keep up with the versatility of scoring that you've got, whether it's Jalen Wilson, whether it's Christian Brown, whether it's Remy Martin coming off the bench, or, oh yeah, our first-team All-American potential in Ochai Agbaji. They just got more ways to beat you. I like Kansas to advance. And Iowa State, Miami, I'm done doubting this Iowa State team. It is a coin flip of a game. And I'll tell you what, Chris, and you might be able to inform me better, but my guesstimation is there will be a lot more Cyclones fans in Chicago than there will be Miami Hurricanes fans. And this all Big 12 Elite Eight could be an electric atmosphere for both the Kansas and Iowa State fan bases. I mean, clearly Iowa State knows with TJ Otzelberger, they have someone who is really special with the way that he got this team out to a tremendous start in non-conference play. They took their lumps in the Big 12. And guess what, Chris? Now they're back in non-conference play. The only problem is in the Elite Eight, they see a conference opponent. So I do have the Jayhawks winning that one.
Yeah, it will be all Iowa State and Kansas fans in Chicago for the most part, and it would be like a Big 12 championship game at the Sprint Center in Kansas City if they meet up there. All right, let's go to the Final Four now as Chip redoes his bracket. He has a couple of 1 seeds, a 4 and a 2, and it's Gonzaga, Kansas for the title, and the Jayhawks coming out victorious. That was your pick going into this thing, and you're sticking with it.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it the whole way. For those of you who wanted to review my expert bracket, I had Texas Tech, not Gonzaga, coming out of it. I like what I've seen from the Zags so far. Drew Timme takeover mode is the buzzword that I'm using to get Gonzaga all the way to the national title game. But again, I just like that if they can contain Timme and Holmgren down low, while Andrew Nembhard has been very good, especially against Memphis for Gonzaga, I think those other options that Kansas has, it's just a more well-rounded team. It's an experienced team. It is a team that is a blue blood that doesn't quite have that same type of NBA sizzle. And it reminds me of that Roy Williams, North Carolina team from 2017 that was led by, Kennedy Meeks, Joel Berry, Isaiah Hicks, not players that you looked at as lottery picks. And I think that Kansas in the same way, blue blood team, you're used to seeing this program have NBA sizzle, but it's just got experienced program players, Ochai Agbaji, David McCormick, Christian Brown. I think that is sometimes a group that is going to be able to lead you to better NCAA tournament success because of the time they've spent together and the time they've spent in college basketball. So it is the versatility and it is the experience of the Kansas Jayhawks that I think have them cutting down the nets for the second time in the Bill Self era in New Orleans.
And the first time in over a decade. Kansas, the number 2 favorite in Vegas. You can get them at plus 475 right now at the Caesars Sportsbook. Chip, thank you so much. There's a brand new Ion College Basketball podcast. It just dropped today as Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish preview all 8 Sweet 16 matchups, which begin Thursday just after 7 Eastern on CBS.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.